You heard her. She's cheating.
No, I would never cheat.
No. I'm sure your Catholic upbringing might, send you the pits of hell.
I am a stickler for the rules.
Well, good morning, everybody, and the Brew Crew here. I'm Eric, N1JUR, and hanking out with my hanking today with my non-rule breaker.
And I'm Shannon, KC1OHT here in the U.S., and still 2 Echo Zero Oscar Hotel Tango in the U.K., but maybe that's going to change. Maybe. It is going to change. Put those positive intentions out into the universe.
Yes, very cool. Well, welcome, guys. If you're here in the chat, welcome. If you're watching live, say hello and let us know where you're tuning in from. And heck, although we have our regulars here this morning, first time tuning in, say welcome. You're officially part of our crew. Okay, well,
yep. The only person I've seen say hello so far is Roger McKeon. He is like he's like Giannis, right? S51 DX. Like if you can't hear Giannis, the band is closed. If Roger isn't here, then YouTube is broken.
Well, there you go. No pressure there, Roger. Okay, well, if you're like Roger, maybe this is your kind of conversation, well, then definitely hit subscribe. Come hang out with us for a bit. Again, it's free, helps the show reach other hams and let folks know that you enjoy it. And if you haven't, head over to Shannon's channel. Make sure you subscribe to her. I know she's going off to England, and we're hoping, fingers crossed, toes crossed, that she's going to actually put some England content out there, brother, or whatever you say over there.
Wow.
Tea and crumpets and... I can't remember all my Monty Python lines.
The opinions of this show do not represent...
Just Shannon. Mine, I'm opinionated. It's all good. Okay, cool. Well, we've got a lot to kind of cover today. We're going to get continuation into our discussion of SWR and resonance and reactance when it comes to our equipment. Hopefully you're ready in and you can buckle in. So if this kind of sits well with you, again, if you can't tune in, and I've heard a few folks saying, hey, I'm in the middle of my job. This is one of those things that I struggle. You can always pick us up on any of your favorite podcast players. Just search for Brew and Activate and subscribe and come be a part. And we usually get this out within a couple of hours after we go finish up our live stream. And heck, if you really are interested and you like the stuff that I put out, and when Shannon finally puts out more content, maybe hers too as well, you can head over to n1jur.com and subscribe to our newsletter over there. We've got some awesome stuff. I've been getting a lot of great feedback. And if you like getting details on the nuts and bolts about gear reviews, POTA, and portable operations, then, go subscribe to the newsletter. It's free, simple and easy, and you can head over and sign up there. And it's roughly a weekly newsletter where, we have a lot of great content, a lot of awesome things to share. So, yeah, please co-join. I would love to have you over there and let us know. Okay, well, we obviously want to welcome Shannon back because we although Mike was a good stand-in, I mean, he's just not, up to the snuff of Shannon's caliber, because he obviously does his own thing. But, we appreciate your back, and we know we can't replace you. You've got a permanent job here.
And he wasn't wearing the red wig, I noticed.
No, he had a red cup. He said a red cup.
Oh, okay. That was supposed to be the red. Got it.
I kind of gave him a little slack because he was preparing for the VHF, UHF contest, and he did have a POTA wagon. So if you caught his video, he pulled all of his gear up via POTA wagon. So he did it, I'm sure, as an homage to you.
Yeah, you got to have the POTA wagon.
No, if you don't, but whatever. The anti-POTA wagon is coming.
Yeah, I do not like this anti-POTA wagon crusade that seems to be gathering.
It's only two people. It's not really quite a crusade, but it might amount to something.
Anyway.
We have Sean's picking up the reverb there.
Yeah, everybody's talking about the reverb.
Yeah, let's see what's going on. I wonder why that's coming up. It's probably me.
If Eric tries to fix it, then he's gonna break the stream is what's gonna happen. We sort of noticed if I mute, then it seems to go away. So it's got to be something with me, but we can't really figure it out.
How am I now?
I don't hear it.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, well, we can always just do one more tweak here because I'm sure obviously it's driving you nuts. People don't want to be part of that, so let's just do a switch mic here.
See, Mike said POTA SUV. That's basically what I have already.
Is it? All right. Am my mic coming through now or no?
You sound very quiet now. You're right, Grouch. There is always audio issues with Eric. I don't understand how every week it's a different audio issue with him. Like
it is.
You know what it is he makes it too complicated. All I have is I got like my $25 Amazon headset plugged into my computer, bing, bang, boom. Every week my audio works.
Are you done?
No. Am I ever done?
No, never. Never. Let me I'm just gonna move my mic here. We're gonna go right to the mic and skip over.
And we have some important things to talk about. Things that happened earlier this week when we were, making the ham radio circuit.
Yes, so we're gonna dive into that. How is it still there? It is still there. It's artifacting. It's weird. Well, all right. If Shannon, you want to talk about W1BB, I can jump out and jump back in and see if that clears this shit up. You want to? You game? It's just so that echo doesn't drive people nuts.
Yeah, I'm sure we can find something to talk about. How about if we do a mock RSGB exam?
Well, you could do. It's not going to take that long. It's like literally 4 minutes. So if you want to talk about either your beard or bust and go that route, or you can talk about your mock RSGB tool, I'll jump out, jump back, and we'll see what that does.
Well, can you figure out how to get my screen up there?
Yeah, simple and easy. We'll go over here. Let me get off of my screen share and add you, and then that way you can fill in the gaps. Here we go.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that stuff that I actually know a little bit about while we wait for Eric to get back.
Because that's what
I got my screen share up there.
She's all good. She'll entertain you for the next 5 minutes or less.
Yeah, so for those of you who maybe don't know, a couple weeks ago I talked about using AI to vibe code this RSGB testing program. So, oh, now my mic is a little bit hot. Okay, let's see what I can do. I think my mic is, it's still turned up to 100%. All right, you guys, let me know. Let me know if that still sounds a little bit hot to you guys. Maybe that's why Eric was reverbing. Who knows? So, just so you guys can get an idea of what the UK full test is like. Now Shannon is saying too low. Well, you guys got to make up your mind if I'm too low or too high. All right, try that. That's at 75%. Let me know how that is. All right, I turned it up to 75%. Let me know how that is. So just so you guys can kind of see like an idea of what some of the questions are like on the UK full license. So they have questions that come from the license schedule, which are, you know, a little easier because you have your reference material here, which hopefully that reference material is showing up. Yep, it is. So some of these questions you can actually just get directly from the reference material. So the first question here, what is the power limit in the 70 centimeter band above which a beacon requires coordination with the MOD? And that's the Ministry of Defense, for those of you guys who may not know. You know, go down to the back of your reference material here, which you do have this printed out. And it is somewhere in here. In the notice of coordination where it has the answer to that question. Oh yeah, right here. So 430 to 440 megahertz deployment of a repeater or beacon over 25 watts ERP in this band is subject to coordination with the Ministry of Defense. So, yeah, you go right here, 25 watts, and that's the answer. And this test is 58 questions, by the way, and you have to get 35 correct in order to pass. And hello, Bricker. Thank you, James, for letting me know that the audio is now perfect. And yeah, welcome, November 7, Juliet Foxtrot from Montana. Good to have you here. And yeah, we're just waiting for Eric to get back. The second question here has to do with electromagnetic fields. Why does the mode of transmission matter when assessing compliance with the license requirement for electromagnetic fields? So yeah, if anybody knows the answer or wants to take a guess, they are more than welcome to throw what you think the answer might be in chat. The choices being it allows for the transmit/receive time ratio. It determines the maximum transmit time in minutes. It sets the peak to average transmit power, or it corrects for people being out of the main beam. And I'm pretty sure the answer to that is that it sets the peak to average transmit power. And this is like an actual mock exam. So it's not going to tell us the correct answers until I hit finish mock, which you really get 2 hours to take this, but I've been doing practice I've been doing practices, and I usually end up finishing in like 15 to 18 minutes, and I've been getting like 100%, 98%. So this one has to do with messages. How should you behave on air, considering that amateurs will have diverse cultural norms and sensitivities? And some of these are like, they're almost common sense, right? You can just read it and figure out what the answer is without having to study or memorize anything. So A, you should remain considerate and avoid topics or behaviors that could cause offense. B, amateur operators worldwide recognize potential cultural differences and are unlikely to take offense at what you say. All conversations should be strictly limited to technical topics related to amateur radio. Or D, you must adhere to licensing rules that prohibit discussions involving religion or politics. So the correct answer to that, pretty sure, is A, you should remain considerate and avoid topics or behaviors that could cause offense. And then this is another one of those ones that I don't know. Do I have reverb? I shouldn't be having reverb. Let me try to take off this this echo cancellation. A difference. All right, I turned off echo cancellation. You guys let me know if I do or do not have reverb. And yes, James, don't be a XXCK. Exactly. And then this is another one of those license schedule ones that you have to look up in the reference material. Yeah, so Bricker House, Ofcom. Which frequency band required written consent of Ofcom? So Ofcom is the UK equivalent of the FCC, basically. And I won't bore you guys with looking up the answer to this one. I am almost positive it is 24.05 to 24.15 gigahertz. And yeah, RK Guy BRU 8632, first time listener, welcome in to Brew and Activate, where we usually talk about, all things POTA and POTA related, or, just whatever kind of ham radio stuff we have going on in our lives. So my name is Shannon. My call signs are KC1OHT here in the US, or 2 Echo Zero Oscar Hotel Tango in the UK. I'm actually leaving on Monday for an extended trip to the UK, and I decided before I go, I might as well upgrade my UK license to the full UK license. So, in order to help me study, I vibe coded this program here that I've been showing off for the last couple weeks, and look at that. The boss is back. Eric is back. Hopefully, we've gotten rid of our audio gremlins.
No, yeah, we should be okay. Nope. I don't know.
So yeah, this is another one of those ones that you got to look up the license schedule. Which one of the following bands is not authorized under the terms of the amateur radio license? And I'm pretty sure the answer to that one is 24.0 to 24.1 megahertz.
Are you done?
I can hit finish.
Okay.
Yes.
How's my audio, guys? Are we good? No echoes? I can't see the chat here. I should pull up the chat. Okay. Yes, Faulty Towers. That's a favorite show of mine. Grew up on that as a kid.
Bricker figured it'd be something like HMCC, His Majesty's Communications Commission. Well, everything is like a ministry, right? They have like the Ministry of Transport, the Ministry of Defense. Like, I thought it would have been like a Ministry of Communication, but it's the Office of Communication. So,
but how's it different than us with our committees around here? I hate the word committee. Committee this, committee that.
I don't know. I didn't come up with that. So yeah, let's go ahead and hit finish mock. So we're gonna finish it with 52 unanswered questions. And then it's gonna say that we got so many questions wrong. But yeah, so that's your little preview of what I have going on. Later on today at 1:30 in the afternoon. And
fantastic.
I'll let everybody know how that goes. Yeah, the Ministry of Silly Walks.
It's flying circus. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Spent hours watching that all in my youth. Very cool.
I prefer like the society of people who stack things on top of things.
my favorite is the fruit seller that mimics as the computer IT reseller. He returns his Raspberry Pi and his Apple for an upgrade, an actual physical fruit. Very cool. All right, we all good there? Give me a thumbs up there in chat if you think my audio is back to where it should be, because I'm not hearing anything. But hey, it doesn't mean that you guys are. Okay. Yes. Well, we will hopefully hear good raving news. Spam, spam, spam. Yes. Spam, 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 spam. Yes. I'm going to have to dig up my Monty Python's little clips. Excellent. Thank you. All right. So with that, let's get this train back on the tracks here. So where do we? Okay, cool. Yes. So just a couple of things. We've got actually, I don't have my browser up. I should bring it up. Dang it. Now that I close everything down and stage everything, it's all a mess. So yeah, we got some stuff that Shannon and I are involved in the next couple of days. If you haven't heard or been around, Shannon and I've got a special event that we're doing. And while you're doing that, Shannon, you want to kind of set the stage for that, and I'll bring up the web page on it.
Yeah, so for you guys that maybe missed the last few weeks of the show, I found out about this special event that is happening for 2 weekends. The first weekend is this weekend coming up. It's called International Museums Weekends, and it's an event that started in the UK, of course, because that's all I ever pay attention to is stuff that started in the UK, apparently. But I have a lot of
Hmm.
UK friends, so I hear a lot about UK stuff.
Yep.
So this event encourages people to go out to different museums, set up a station in or around the museum, and basically activate the museum. So you register your museum. It's kind of like doing museum ships on the air, right? You register your ship, you register your museum, and then people try to make contact with you. I'm not sure if there's like certain awards for contacting a certain number of museums or anything like that. I haven't really looked into that too much.
Yeah, so I can fill that in. So museums in general have an assigned number, and each our museum number is 5533, and so you can work towards getting as many museums collected. And once you get that, you can submit an award to the International Museum Week's website, and they'll send you a certificate.
Yeah, awesome. So, and Jason KD2 UDR said sorry that he's late, and I was just going to type it, but I'll just say it. A wizard is never late nor
Yeah,
early. They arrive precisely when they mean to. We need to get that as a clip.
no, we don't.
Um,
I don't want to encourage it.
why?
Well, because whatever. We don't have time to talk about all the merits on this one, but keep going.
Yeah, so I have made my views known about why I personally like these particular events, and we all know that I really like POTA. I like going out. I like working portable. I like meeting people, talking to people. That's like half of the reason why I do ham radio, right? Is because I want to be part of that community, that camaraderie. And I think that going out and doing special event stations just really feeds into that because it brings more ham radio awareness out to the public. I wish that somebody had told me 20 plus years ago that I could have been a ham radio operator, because like how much further would I have been in the hobby if I had known about it, but I just didn't know that it was a thing.
Yep.
So I like to bring that awareness of ham radio and how much fun it can be, and what educational values and properties there are, and how much it can bring people together. And once you've been brought together by radio, right, you actually find that you have so many more things in common with people. Like, I've met people who like to do knitting and crocheting and hobbies like that. I've met people that also love Titanic, people that love Star Trek, all different aspects of of people that we share in common.
Mhm.
So, and then also the bringing awareness of the different museums to the ham radio community. So this museum that we're going to on Saturday from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m., the Charles River Museum of Industry and Innovation. I had never even heard of this museum, and I've lived north of Boston for my entire
Yeah,
life,
live.
42 years. Yeah. So, being able to go to this museum, learn a little bit more about the local area, learn more about this important ham radio operator named Stu Perry, who did so many great things for the hobby, and learning and experimenting more about the 160-meter band, and advocating for that 160-meter band to be returned to amateur use after World War II. Um, has just, it like enriches your life, right? It sounds cheesy, but you should learn something new every day.
Yeah, no, I think this is kind of one of those things that as it started to grow and get deeper down the rabbit hole of coming together, it really kind of like hit home for me, because one of the things that I really think is pretty cool about this is just the call sign alone, W1BB. you may or may not know of him, but he was a pioneer to getting all of the frequency spaces that we have for 160, and that band alone, and doing all of the testing and, basically moving the bar forward. And as I started to learn more about him, he's one of those mentors and Elmers that you really would want, like, to have, because he was just so, willing to give everything he could to basically further the 160 band, but more so just ham radio in general too. So it was really cool to, see that on top of being also a family member related to the director of the museum, it's just kind of like one of those perfect storms. It just kind of all collided and made total sense to just do this, and it was pretty cool.
And he lived his whole life in Winthrop, Massachusetts. So that's part of the reason why some of his, some of his gear, original gear, is there at the Charles River Museum of Industry and Innovation. Aside from the fact that his grandson is one of the
coffee, stop.
Yeah. Besides the fact that his grandson is one of the directors of the museum, he lived his whole life in Winthrop, Massachusetts, which is literally like just down the road. And so, as Eric mentioned, his call sign, which is W1BB, but it was originally issued as 1BB. So if you guys don't know, like there was a time before, sometime in the 30s, I think it was, the call signs were originally issued with no letter prefix. They were just 1BB, or like if the ARRL, W1AW was 1AW. So if you think about it, Hiram Percy Maxim, which was 1AW, and then Stu Perry was 1BB. Stu Perry's license was issued only 5 people after Hiram Percy Maxim. So, very, very early license. And the fact that it has stayed, first with him and then to a club that is, keeping his call sign, I think is so super, super cool. And we actually had our club call sign for the Pocahontas Amateur Radio Club. We had W1PZ, which unfortunately someone didn't realize that the license had lapsed for that, and we actually lost our original call sign, which is really sort of a bummer. Yeah. So someone else has gotten that call sign now, but that was sort of the same, like one of those very long time running call signs.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the things that we're really excited to do is the interfacing with the public with this whole process. It's going to be a big event. There's going to be a lot going on in the city itself, from activities and festivals and stuff. So they're funneling more traffic. And for me, that just like bumps it up to, 1,000, because I'm like, oh, cool. We get to talk about ham radio with people. We get to be front and center of, all of it, and, getting people on the air. And I'm hoping, through all of this, we might net a few new hams, but at the same time, at least put ham radio back on the map. I think that's always the biggest thing for me, is that most people don't know of it, don't remember it, or heard it used to be one of those things that, happened like 20, 30 years ago. And so we're going to be able to bring that right front and center. And funny thing is that a couple of things people have mentioned to me, and I've gotten a few feedback emails from folks asking us if we're going to be on 160. Guys, if you're a ham, it's the middle of the day. 12 to 2 is the museum hours that we have to operate in. 160 is going to be dead as a doornail. There's nothing going to be going on. So we're going to try to post all of our frequencies on the live stream, so you can find us. We'll be on the spotting page too as well. And the call sign should be pretty easy to pick up anyway. So, just kind of tool around the bands. But Shannon had the idea that we maybe do, 18 160, and what was the other one?
Yeah, so I want to try to do 29.160 on the 10-meter band, and then 18.160 on the 17-meter band. So we'll see how that goes. Depending on the band conditions, obviously. But I thought that way we could at least get the number 160 in there somewhere. It would make it kind of a little special, and make us a little bit easier to find. And, not only, so it's this special event this weekend, but I found this out that Saturday is ARRL Kids Day. So
Oh.
maybe you guys don't know that the ARRL hosts a Kids Day twice a year, usually once in January and once in June, where they sort of encourage people to get their kids on the air, calling CQ, making contacts. It starts at 1800 UTC and it ends at 2359 UTC. So it's for a few hours. They have suggested frequencies listed for each band. And then they have a suggested exchange, which I think is like name, age, location, and favorite color.
Mhm.
So, really simple there. And so yeah, I'm definitely hoping that I'm probably going to have Miles with me, I imagine. So maybe getting Miles on the air, activating a little bit, or if there's any other kids that come by the museum, trying to get them on the air. And
Yep.
someone had actually made a suggestion about maybe having a little get on the air station on VHF, UHF, something of that nature. So I think we're going to work and try to get something done there. I know there's some active repeaters in the Waltham area, so it's possible maybe we could try to hop on a repeater and try to make some contacts that way, or even on 14652. Um, you
Yeah,
know,
we'll definitely kind of play around with that because this is just coming together so quickly that we're not going to be able to do everything. But keep that in mind that this is an annual thing with International Museum Week. So we're gonna definitely, if this really starts to kind of explode, I think do more as we continue to go out and do it every year, and we'll see where we go from there. But yeah, I'm looking forward to at least seeing what we can do and who we can meet and share
And
some ham radio.
what I want is I want you all, not this year because obviously it's like tomorrow, right? And I know like next it is being held next weekend as well, but for us here in the US next weekend is field day, so I know that's taking a lot of priority for people.
Mhm.
But like please next year, talk to people in your clubs, look around and see what museums are in your area that could potentially benefit from having a ham radio station set up
Mhm.
at the museum, right? Even maybe it doesn't even have to do with like technology or industry or um, you know, uh, communications. It could be, there's so many ports of entry that you can take to, put a special event together. Look at like the 13 Colonies event.
Yeah.
That's celebrating the 4th of July and the American Revolution. That doesn't have anything to do with technology or communication, but so there's other ports of entry that you can take to just approach a local museum and say, hey, I'm an amateur radio operator. There's this special event, Museums on the Air. Would you like to get your museum on the air and, bring awareness of your museum to, a potentially global audience?
Yeah. Now, is ports of entry a term that the British use a lot?
I
I'm
don't
just
know.
curious. You keep saying it over and it's like, "G'day, mate." As Australian. But okay.
I don't know where I came up with that, but it just seemed like the best term for what I was trying to get across.
Totally fine.
And thank you, Shannon, for saying we may be able to next year. Um, I think there's so many museums around the Boston area that, seem like the perfect fit
Yeah.
for doing this. There's like the Boston Science Museum, of course. Even like the Krista McAuliffe already has a station there. So, somebody should be getting that station on the air for international museums. That would already be so easy. They already have everything set up. Or,
Right.
Hammond Castle Museum with John Hammond, the father of radio control. Or like, going a little bit further west, the American Wireless Museum, or going with, sort of like the military theme, the American Heritage Museum. Like, I wish I could just split myself into like 10 different Shannons. And I know that is a scary thought, Eric, but like, I wish I could just be everywhere at once and run every special event station.
Okay.
But that's why I need to recruit. I need to create like my own Shannon ham radio army. And, hopefully Shannon Jabberjaws will be, she'll be like my right hand lady.
I'll only join if they're t-shirts. That's the way I go.
Well, I don't know. You know what? Here's the thing, though: is can I make a Shannon army and go against Grouch army? That could be a little controversial.
You can do whatever you want. Armies. The nice part about armies is that they fight each other. And that works perfect.
Oh no! But I'm a lover.
Grouch can handle it.
I'm a lover, not a fighter.
That's fine. You could be the lover army.
I was supposed to be Sergeant Shannon in the Grouch army, and I thought I was supposed to get my own T-shirt.
Get demoted to private.
And then that never came to fruition.
I know. That's all right. We all have our hopes and dreams, and sometimes they get smashed upon the rocks. That's just the way it goes. All right. Well, if you guys are, I guess the kind of takeaway from this is like, one, obviously come check us out. We'll be live streaming live from the event. So come be part of the chat, come support, and be part of all the great action. But two, Shannon and I aren't special. You can do this yourself. Like if you've got a radio, you got a couple of people in in your midst that love to play radio and you love talking about radio, then yeah, you can pick this up and go do it. It doesn't require anything except the time yourself and maybe a couple of hours on a Saturday or whatever. And so we do it for POTA because POTA is just comfortable and it's just our ham radio circles. But you can branch out. You could start doing some of this stuff. So that's my encouragement to you guys, and I think Shannon's kind of on board with that too as well. Just go out and just try it. I mean, what's the worst? It doesn't work well? Then, okay, you learn something. You can move on. So, good stuff. Okay, we got one more thing we want to talk about. Two more things we want to talk about. One, I just want to kind of plug this real quick. I'm going to be on Ham Radio 2O's on Sunday night at 8 p.m. Central Time. So, his usual window that he does his stream. Mike, N2MK, myself, and a few others will be on to talk about our 5-2 challenge experience, share some of our insight, hopefully encourage you guys if you're stuck with trying to get some noise and make RF weird on 5.2, and come check that out. We'd love to have you support over there. Say hello, because I think that is one of the more things that I'm just passionate about too as well. It's like I want to make 5.2 just as active as every IHF band that we have. And so that's a great way to kind of promote it. So go check us out. Check me out there on that Sunday night. Shannon will probably be in the air or getting close to being in the air. So, fingers crossed she'll get over there, no problem, and be back to living, 6-hour time frame for you guys from us?
I think it's 5 hours.
Okay. So she'll be 5 hours ahead of us and living life way before we get to.
Yeah, I'll be in the future.
Yes. You'll be from the future.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the last thing, guys, Jen and I were on Clubhouse Tuesday. Thank you again for the Clubhouse guys for creating space for us to come on and talk about W1BB and this whole thing. But in the midst, it somehow turned on me fast. It ended up becoming this more focused on Beard or Bust. And so with Beard or Bust, I have to say that first and foremost, thank you to everybody. The small donations, the big, large donations, all of it. You guys really, stepped up to the plate, and we blew the meter. We blew Shannon's $500 meter way out, and so we were able to get together and raise roughly about $713. There's a few other extra donations coming in that I haven't added in yet, but it hasn't closed out yet. So if you want to help, you can obviously donate to this and throw in. But again, 100% of this is all going to go to a local high school that's got an a ham radio club starting with a teacher. I've got some information that I'm going to be hopefully getting this person on to share his experience about being a teacher and teaching ham radio and starting a ham radio in the club. And then I'm hoping that we can, with the money, as well as a bunch of other donated pieces of equipment, get them a shot in the arm to just really explode ham radio in the school. They've got, I think, 11 students already. And there's more in the wings, all looking to study at different levels. So I'm super excited to be able to pass this on to him. And so we're gonna give him basically like I said, that shot in the arm that he needs to be able to just really take ham radio home in starting in the fall, since most teachers in schools are closed. So awesome. Anything you want to chime in there, Shannon? Besides the fact that we'll talk about the growth process in a bit.
Yeah, so Shannon said, ahem, did you mention to Shannon my idea for the overage? So yeah, I looked up the Whiskerina
Yeah,
beards.
gross.
So, my mind, my gears have been turning about, how I could create a Whiskerina style beard and what I could make it out of. And, should I make it ham radio related? Should I make it, knitting and crochet related? That will be we'll have to think on that a little bit. I'm gonna
You'll
be
have to think. I'm not
well,
thinking about it at
I'm
all.
gonna be so busy, going over to the UK and everything, that I don't think I'm gonna have like time to create a beard. But maybe the best beards aren't planned.
Well, from your standpoint, maybe you might want to put a little thought into it. But from my standpoint, I just have to exist, and I appreciate everybody who's
Yeah,
provided
it's
feedback.
easier for guys. They just grow it. They don't
Yeah,
have to
it's
like
not like we
create it.
enjoy sort of growing it, but
Well, the growing it out process is sort of like the worst part of having a beard.
don't
But
disagree.
once you have it, it's so good.
Okay,
I
sure.
mean, maybe it's not so good on you, but I think it looks good in that picture.
Well, AI
That
can lie.
that AI generated beard.
And yeah, the Grizzly Adams photo looks really well. Do not say it. I don't want to hear it. So I put a poll up on my channel. If you're a member of N1JUR, you get first dibs to kind of decide what level is acceptable, and I give a couple different ratings. So I'll circle back around to that, and then I'll put a public poll out just to let the rest of the other folks kind of add their 2 cents into it. But yeah, we'll. I've got a reprieve of roughly 3 weeks until we get back from Maine. From my vacation. So
Yes, so I did tell him on Ham Radio Clubhouse that he is taking a beach vacation. I don't think I knew it was in Maine, but I knew he said he was taking a beach vacation. I said he can wait until after the beach vacation to start to grow the beard, cuz like you don't want like the sand in the beard and stuff. So, I will grant him and his wife that courtesy. um
she'll be happy, I think. I don't know. She's already taken a lot off the plate in July, so we can only imagine what that's going to look like. All right. Well, so if you wanted to donate, obviously throw in, please. Anything more above and beyond this, we'll definitely continue to pass on to the school and the teacher itself. So it's awesome. And yeah,
so Mike,
we'll share that soon, Mike. I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag. I may have a members only invite my wife on to share her thoughts on the process, but yeah, we're working on that one.
Bricker says, I need to get my wife on some crochet beards. I bet you could do some up for those less able to. I think Shannon should wear a beard for any beard events. Well, I do know how to knit and crochet. So, and I know that there are knit and crochet beard patterns out there. So it is not out of the realm of possibility that I might sport a knit or crochet beard. But then that also kind of sounded like the easiest one to do. So, I mean, if we wanted to like sort of like let the cat out of the bag, right? I was kind of thinking, because of the way these like Whiskerina beards work, and if you look them up, they're pretty cool, right? The one of the first ones I saw was like this steampunk kind of one where it was like all made out of like little metal gears that you kind of use to make jewelry or make embellishments for like steampunk outfits and stuff. So if I wanted to make one that sort of went along with like ham radio, I was like, like the curly cords that go on your hand, Mike. I was like, imagine a beard that was made out of the curly cords that that go on hand mics, I thought that would be kind of cool, right? Because it would kind of look a little bit like curly hair. So that was like kind of one idea that I had, or like, just use a bunch of wire and use the wire as like the hair hanging down. And then wire, that BN Techco wire comes in all different colors. So I could have like a BN Techco silicone jacket, rainbow colored beard. Or
Jabber
like
Jaws.
or like you could have like the steampunk one, but you could use like little resistors and capacitors and little ICs. Like, you could really be so creative. You just
I
have
don't
like,
have anything to say to this, but anyway.
you use like a fabric backing to like stick everything on.
Okay, we're gonna put a pin in that, and you can workshop it later.
So, it might be a while before I get around to that, but it's
Well,
not out of the realm of possibility.
good for Sean there since 2011. I don't know if I have that commitment in time, and the jobby job does require I actually look, a certain way as in a professional. But whatever, we'll come up with a happy medium in between, and we'll share it with you guys and bring you along.
Does your job have the Disney look? Even the Disney look allows beards now.
Okay. All right. Well, with that, again, this show, I want to say, stays ad free through the whole entire time we're in the stream here. So, again, your support through super chats, memberships, and we always like to set a weekly goal to try to continue to keep this going of just $10, in super chats, so we don't have to turn on the evil ad machine there. Again, no pressure, guys. It's generally what keeps things running here. And if you can't do it that way, but you want to look for new ways to, buy equipment, I'm always improving my relationships with vendors and partnerships. And so, head on over to n1jur.com/discounts. I have all my discounts and affiliates over there. I just earn a small little simple commission from that. But you guys get some awesome, great products from Spool Tenna, from Mad Dog, from Reliance, and those that are on the newsletter probably would have already received the latest promotional discount that Matt's offering for some of his latest antenna creations that he gets up on the website. And there's a couple of discount codes in that too as well. So see, you can save a few bucks and get some really cool antennas that you've probably been waiting for and wanting and just haven't pulled the trigger on. So those are a couple easy ways. And then always, you can, like, subscribe, and share to both Shannon and I's channel. It definitely helps. You can do it for free, no cost involved, and it keeps us in the eyeballs of hopefully prospective folks that are interested in the ham radio hobby. Because I know once we finish with W1BB, we're going to have a lot more people interested in checking out our channel and falling down the rabbit hole with videos. So if we can get Shannon making more videos, then more people will stay on our channel and more people will want to learn more about ham radio. So let's go, Shannon. Come on.
I know. And yeah, speaking of people learning about ham radio, looks like we have an aspiring ham here, awesome. Cody King Adventures.
Very cool.
And you're in the right place. Cody King Adventures. Let us know where you're from. And we are certainly ready, willing, and able to give you any help or advice we can. And cool. We're probably like, I know I'm a VE. You got to be a VE, right, Eric?
I am. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, we all we need is one more VE. We could practically have a testing session right here.
Who's another VE coordinator? Actually, I think we do happen to know him. He may be even in the chat still if he's not busy.
Who, Paul?
Yeah.
I haven't seen him chat for a few minutes.
Okay. So
well, Cody says he's in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, Canada.
Canada.
I don't know too much about the process of getting licensed in Canada, except I know that even though you can take the Canadian exam remotely, you have to be on Canadian soil when you do it.
Well, then I know we have a few hams in our midst that are part of the N1JR community that are dual licensed in Canada and U.S. So
Yeah, I do actually know a couple Canadian US hams. So
So that's actually a good segue because ultimately, hey, if you're in Canada and you want to, get your dual licenseship and whatnot, head on over to our Discord because, we'd love to have you over there. Links in the chat there. That can, go over in those, ask those questions because we have a lot of great members. W1TED comes to mind. Ted, he's dual licensed. Obviously, Shannon's licensed over in England. And so, yeah, there's definitely those folks out there that can help you if you're looking for study materials, help, and all of that. Please come join, be part of the fun, and welcome, into the community and yeah, get deeper down the ham radio rabbit hole. Actually, we forgot. Now that I'm thinking about it, quick little roll call there, Shannon. You want to say hello to the folks because I know we've had a bunch more showing up, and then we'll dive into our POTA minute.
Yeah, so we got a bunch of people in here. I know we kind of talked about Roger was one of the first ones to come in. We got KY4TRK. We got James KI5OEB. We have Hamman CT. We got Philip KA4KOE. We have Bricker House, of course. We have Right Path Networks. If you're new, welcome in. We got Travelin' Ham. Let's see, who else do we have? Of course, Jabberjaw Shannon. She's been in for a while. Adirondack DFL. Just scrolling down to see who has chatted. We got Cody King Adventures. And yeah, we got K9JPP. Joe, he just popped in. We got over on my channel, Droner Wayne, VA3FMB. Good morning. Welcome in. We got my favorite person named Mike, Golf Zero RFD. We got Misha DeBear. We got Jason KD2UDR. We got another Canadian ham, VU3VOC, I think is VU. That is Canada, right? Or is
I
that?
think so. Yeah.
Or is that India? I'm so confused. And then we got RK Guy BRU 8632. That's N7JFF from Montana, first time viewers. So welcome in. Lots of first time people here. We got Foxtrot Fred, Sean, Technishon.
India.
We got November 1, Oscar Grouch. And I think that was it from my channel.
Okay. Well, VU is India.
Okay. Yeah, so thank you for dropping in from India.
Sweet.
One of the places I've always wanted to visit.
Making sure I got the.
Oh, you're a copycat.
I have it on standby all the time. and to be official member, you have to have a set of overalls. Where's your overalls? Mine are upstairs.
You know what? I need to order some overalls, and I saw some overalls when I was at Walmart. When I was looking for like some new clothes to buy to bring with me to England, because I needed some more shorts. So I saw some overall shorts, which like I wore those back in the 90s. I was like, are these popular again? But they didn't really have my size. So, I don't know. Mike might be embarrassed to be seen with me in overall shorts. Miles might be embarrassed to be seen with me in overall shorts.
Wear it, girl, wear it. That is all.
And then like I was told that, like, why are you buying so many shorts? You do realize you're coming to England, right? Well, now I just heard that next week there's going to be a heat wave in England and it's going to be like 80 something degrees. So I'm like, oh, good. Perfect. First of all, I wear shorts even if it's like in the high 60s, low 70s. I don't know about anybody else, especially here in New England, right? It's like you get that first warmish day. Sometimes that day is in like January. We've gotten like those, like high 50s, low 60s days in January. And like all of a sudden everybody's breaking out the shorts, the t-shirts, the flip-flops. So, I wear shorts, pretty much a lot of the time, probably from now until, September, October, I'll probably mostly just be wearing shorts. But you know what the other thing is that I saw that apparently is popular again, which I'm so happy because I think they're so pretty. And maybe the girls in chat will appreciate that, or, probably the one and only girl, Shannon. But the long white flowy peasant skirt, the lacy peasant skirt that they were like really popular in the 2010s. And I had like so many of them in all different colors. And I saw someone actually when I was driving through Boston yesterday, because I went to Kura Revolving Sushi Bar with Miles. He's been begging me to go to Kura. So if you guys have never been to a Kura, you got to go. It's wicked fun. There's this robot that comes to the table and brings you drinks. So as I was driving through
Not for sushi,
Boston,
though.
um, so as I was driving through Boston, I first of all I was on the lookout for members of the Tartan Army. I didn't see anyone wearing a kilt, but I did see guys that were wearing like the dark blue soccer jersey, football jersey. So I'm pretty sure they were, Team Scotland. But I saw a girl that was walking and she had the long white flowy peasant skirt. So I was like, oh, are these back in again? I should have kept mine from like 15 years ago, 16 years ago,
Oh
but I
boy,
probably donated them all. So
good idea.
I did buy a white flowy skirt on Amazon as well. That's part of my large Amazon order that's coming on Saturday. That's like all stuff that I'm going to pack for this trip.
Are you the type of person who just buys brand new everything before you go away, so you don't have to wash it? If it gets destroyed or lost, it's like okay.
Well, I love doing laundry on vacation. Maybe people think I'm crazy. When I went to Hamvention, I did laundry twice and the laundry room was right next to our hotel room, so that was perfect. But I don't want to pack up dirty clothes and bring home dirty clothes to wash. So I will do laundry on vacation so that I can put all clean clothes back into my back.
I have a theory on this one. Were you ever a Girl Scout?
Yes.
Did you ever like do real like dirt ground camping?
I mean, not as a Girl Scout,
Okay,
but
so there's my Boy Scouts. We would go out. We would literally have clean clothes in our backpack. When we came home, it was like all crap, mud, water, crap, everything in the bag. That's the way I do it. I don't laundry does not happen on vacation. I don't know. So bizarre.
well, that's because you're a man and your wife probably would
I
be
do the
doing it.
laundry in this house. Thank you.
But yeah, so I did buy Miles like more new socks, new underwear. I just bought him new socks and underwear before we went to Hamvention, and I cannot find like hardly any of the pairs of socks that I bought him. So I'm like, do I need to buy you more socks? And like socks and underwear are expensive, guys. I don't know about anybody else, but
What underwear, socks? What?
yeah, So, I did buy new to try to make sure that he has, a fair amount. But then I bought him a new pair of Crocs on Amazon. Because I tried to get him to get like Crocs or sandals when we went to Skechers. Because they always have buy one, get one 50% off. So you might as well get two pairs because you get a discount. And he was like, no, I don't want sandals. I don't want Crocs. And now it's like, we went over his friend's house 2 days this week so that he could go swimming because his friend has an in-ground pool. And that's like you're trying to put socks on wet feet, and it's like the worst thing ever. So I'm like, see, this is why you need to have Crocs or sandals so you can just slip your feet in there. You don't have to worry about it. So and I hate that, like, I don't know, I can never find stores that sell Crocs, but I guess I'm not going to the right stores. I always forget that like Famous Footwear and DSW exist, but like they didn't have Crocs at Skechers. So, I ended up just ordering the Crocs off Amazon. I did get actual Crocs.
In the words of Deadpool, the rubber masturbating shoes. What?
Wow.
I hate those things. They're so bad.
But they're
But that's just my opinion.
comfy and
Oh,
they're
whatever. I have a pair
easy.
of Keens that I love that are basically what we call outdoor hiking sandals, and those things I've had for 5-6 years, and they have
Well,
lasted.
yeah, or like Tivas, right? Those are
Yeah.
good too.
Tevas, yeah, those are our generation though. Most people don't know that those when those sandals came out, the sandals before that were either sliders, which are what they're called now, but they used to be called flip flops, or the crappy plastic ones that we used to grow up as a kid. When Tevas came out, it was like ooh Velcro, and
Yeah,
you were the cool designs,
who remembers
jellies.
jelly shoes? Oh, those were the best. And then I think those kind of came back around, right? Because like our generation had kids, and then we wanted our kids to have the things that we had. So like jelly shoes came back around. So yeah, but those jelly shoes were like the worst because they like rubbed your feet the
Oh
wrong
god, they would
way.
catch you on fire if you wearing them the wrong way, especially after you wore them in water with sand. It was like
Yes.
abrasive.
Yes.
Yeah, skin
But
burns.
yeah, or like the Jesus sandals.
I didn't really get into those. I couldn't. You know, the what Birkenstocks I think they were called. Jesus
Yeah.
sandals. Yes. Yeah. My feet. When you have a size 14, Jesus feet do not want to look like they were fire stompers at the same time. So not happening. Oh man, well, hey, now that you're back, we have a lot to catch up, obviously. But so, we'll see where we stand. I mean, we got some good topics to talk about today. We're continuing on our SWR talk from 2 weeks ago when Mike came on. We talked VHF because the contest was coming up that weekend. So we're gonna shift gears, bring it back, and we're gonna get into episode 2 of the SWR discussion. So we're gonna get more geeky because that's what you guys have asked for, and folks have said, hey, let's get down in the weeds. So we're gonna talk some more of that stuff. But before we even get into that, let's kick off our favorite little moment here. Okay, well, hey, if this is your first time here, this is what we call the POTA Minute. It's the one small POTA idea, one real world observation. We're only going to give it 60 seconds just to get you thinking. So if there's no right answer here, like I say, it's just stuff you kind of start noticing maybe after a few activations, bunch of hunts. Hey, if this has happened to you guys in the chat, say so. Uh, Heck, if you think I'm wrong and you do it differently, even better. So let's get into today's POTA Minute. It's called Slow Down to Speed Up. Talking faster doesn't move the pile up faster. I like that little rhyme, right? Speaking clearly and smooth is way faster. I have been on the receiving side and on the delivery side of this, and I think I have taken for granted just the flow and cadence of how I do activations. And when I get into a pile up or I start to build a pile up, I find that, I just kind of get quick and fast and try to get onto the next one, try to get on the next one. And a lot of times I find my indicator is when people are, can I get this? Or can I get your call sign? Or can I get whatever? And that's a good little note in your mind to kind of file in the back of your computer that when you hear that, you might be going a little too fast. And you want to make sure you give those hunters, those people you're making contact with, a way to clearly get the information that they need for their log. So with that, grab a good coffee, take it with you, take your time, run your activation the way you want, but make sure you just give that little extra effort to slow down to be able to let those hunters, those other contacts hear what they need to hear and be able to get the information. So when they move on to the next one, they already got the 5 or 6 pieces of information they need, and they can, basically do your pleasantries and then move right on. Shannon?
Yeah, I agree that yeah, like if you're talking fast and then you just have to repeat yourself multiple times, then you're really not saving any time. So you're better off if you're talking slowly, clearly, enunciating, getting it right the first time, and then you don't have to repeat yourself. So then you are actually getting through more contacts.
Sufficiency.
And yeah, Jabberjaws was just saying, she talks fast and writes fast, so she has to remind herself to slow down for the folks with me to log. I want
Or
to
does she
know,
get an elbow from Sean? Hey, slow down.
but I want to know, how did she get to be a fast talker? Because isn't she from the South? See, I have always been a fast talker and a loud talker, but I'm from the Northeast where like everything is fast,
Mm.
right? So,
Well, I think in the Northeast we developed a way to be able to, keep the goalpost moving all the time, so people can't really think things through. So that can be good or bad depending on how you look at it. But yeah, I do find that my speediness when we went down to North Carolina for my son's baseball stuff for college, people do talk slower, and when I talk, I kind of like, wait a minute, why do I feel like I'm in a time warp? So I get it.
well, I said like, and Peter noticed this too, like when he went down south to Tennessee to go hiking, that like down south, everything is slower. And I noticed this too, like even just going to Ohio or like when I went out west to Wyoming, South Dakota, Montana, like even like the fast food restaurants are slow. The Dunkin' Donuts was slow.
It's I can imagine you must have been through the drive-through and been like, I'm gonna go in, it'll be faster, and then you got in, you're like, whoa, why are we in reverse? Is anybody even at the counter?
But I mean, to be fair, like I'm usually, I'm not in a big hurry. I've worked retail. I'm usually like, it's okay, take your time, no rush. We're just chilling here. Um, but yeah, it's a very different experience from being, in and around the Boston area where it's like bang, bang, bang. They got everything ready. They got the cups lined up. They're scooping the ice, they're pouring the coffee, they're doing the milk, the sugar, multitasking.
Yep, they're going, hey, next. Come on. They don't even give a greeting any longer, especially during the peak hours. So
Yep.
it's like, what do you want? All right. So Misha said real quick, spotting page. Yeah, definitely a good tip if you're one of those hunters and you have access to it. But I would say just from a standpoint of an activation, don't always depend that people are looking at the spotting page, because that can be something that could, just not be available to them to be able to check out or, find you. I know obviously our POTA tools and stuff like that have that capability to show you. But a lot of times, you just giving them that little extra, or being pretty clear and concise in your repetitiveness of information, that will go a long way. So
I personally don't like relying on the spotting tools. It feels like cheating, right? And we already talked about
yeah,
this,
we had an episode of
that
that whole thing. Yeah,
that I am, I'm a
I don't even
stickler for
spot.
the rules. I don't, I'm not a cheater. And, for me, it's like if I can't copy your call sign clearly over the air, then like I don't really want to log you. So I don't like to rely on the spotting page to figure out like what somebody's call sign is or whatever information that I need to get from them. So, not just, making sure that you talk clearly and concisely and enunciate and use proper phonetics. Also, like, don't just give your call sign like KC1OHTQRZ. Like, can you slow down a little bit? Because maybe somebody else just came on the air and they don't know who you are. I try to give my call sign like very often,
Yep.
at the beginning and end of every contact. To try to make sure that the person that I am logging and that I'm in QSO with has my correct call sign. But also, if there's anybody else listening, they know exactly who I am and what I'm doing. And, don't forget that, like, there can be fading and QSB, and the band can be going up and down. So
Often than not.
somebody might only get one letter, when you go through your call sign that first time. They may get your prefix and not your suffix. So you might have to give it, a couple times for them to actually be able to copy the whole thing when there's a lot of changing band conditions. And I've asked people before, like, especially sometimes I get weaker stations, and I feel bad when the weaker stations are trying to catch me and I'm trying to catch them. And I ask them, give me your call sign 2 or 3 times, give it to me phonetically, and hopefully between like some of the QSB, like I might be able to work the whole thing out eventually. That's another reason why it's nice to have the paper log, because you can kind of write down, okay, I heard KC question mark T or whatever.
Nope. I'm going to just type the first 2 letters and go with it. None of this paper crap. All right. Anyway, good deal on that one. Awesome. Well, hey, if you want to continue this conversation, again, I just love to encourage and have you come over and hang out with the community. Head over to our Discord. If you're not already part of it, you can definitely join for free and come say hello. And we always have very great topics like this and a bunch of other stuff going on. So it's a lively community, and we'd love to have you be part of it as a Brew Crew. So wow, this is going pretty well. I mean, usually by this point, we're already like 3/4 of the way into the topic today. I mean, this is monumental, kind of. Now that you're back, I mean, you've got a lot to catch up over 2 weeks. I don't know. When you go away for 2 months and you're not on, we're in trouble.
Well, like I said, I'm gonna try to hopefully still be able to do the show. We'll see how it goes if I'm in places that have Wi-Fi, and with the time difference and everything. And I don't want to be like rude to the people that are hosting me, right?
Sure.
And be like, I'm sorry, I can't talk to you for 3 hours. I'm doing a live stream.
I'm famous. I've got a YouTube.
Yeah. So, so we'll see how it goes. If I get to pop in. I know definitely next Friday I will not, because I'll be at Tank Fest. Super exciting, seeing all the tanks. So there will be that, but like maybe the next Friday we'll have to see how it goes there. And we got Dave Seed Studio. Dave wants to know how long of a beard will be grown.
Well, Dave, like I said, I put out a members only poll to see what the thoughts were of the N1JUR Brew Crew here. I will be putting something out, hopefully on the channel in the next day or two from, the public standpoint to kind of chime in, and then that will combine. And I'll circle around, put out a quick video and an update so folks know exactly what the criteria is to measure, what is it going to look like, and there's been a few conversations about how we should measure it against number of bow fangs, that type of stuff. So we'll get more into that soon. So keep your eyes and ears peeled on the channel for that, and we'll get into that soon. After I get back from vacation, my gosh.
But yeah, I feel like we're going to be like rivaling Ham Radio Crash Course with like their 3-hour podcasts, which there's nothing wrong with that. I like a good, one time I have to say, with the Ham Radio Crash Course podcast, which I love Josh and Leia, Leia said that like somebody was complaining about the podcast that they ramble on too much about like, the political stuff that goes around in Cerritos, and I actually named it like As Cerritos Turns, and they use that now all the time, which I love. And so I'm like, girl, ramble on. And then like, the Led Zeppelin song like plays in my head every time I think that. Like I'm actually there less for the ham radio content and more for like their, As Cerritos Turns and the sort of random tangents that they end up going on. So I feel like that's sort of like a little bit of the dynamic that we have going on here, like without the marriage portion.
Yes. Well, either way, I don't know. We'll put a pin in that one, because there's stuff I wanted to talk about his latest videos and how that all turns into is kind of dramatic, but at the same time, interesting to see. But yeah, I'm with you on that. I see you a lot in his live streams, either on the backside of coming up with those crazy ideas, or you'll be mentioned. Oh, Shannon's the Vara person, so go see Shannon.
I do. I have been using Vara C like like since probably shortly after I became a ham, like at least since 2022 when I got the FTDX10. I love Vara C. But yeah, that'll be like if we start talking about that, we'll go off on another tangent.
We should do a show on it sometime.
Yeah, we should. And
which would require you to prepare a little bit, but
and
whatever.
Shannon said she's sending prayers for my safe travels and time over there. So thank you, Shannon. I love you. All the prayers.
Well, I'll be with you. Watching you via APRS as you cross over the pond.
Well, I don't think that's legal. I'm actually sort of questioning like what is the legality of people who end up using like mesh core in planes? Like, can you do that on a commercial plane? Are you supposed to do that on a commercial plane? I don't think you're supposed to. Not that like even it, like I'm going over the ocean, right? So it doesn't really make very much sense for me to do like even if I ask permission of the captain, right? Like, oh, can I transmit on 144.390 APRS, or can I transmit on 915 megahertz for mesh core or whatever? It's like it's not going to pick up anything because I'm going over the ocean. So
might ping off a satellite, but whatever. Okay, well, with that, let's kind of dive into topic today because we got a little bit to go into, and obviously,
we have a topic.
You always have a topic. Who are you talking to, girlfriend? And I don't want to go too long into it because it's definitely deep and nerdy. But the idea is, we'll definitely have to split this out a little bit because I think, for your time and my time, because obviously the weekend with the whole museums and WMBB, I've got to do a little bit more prepping and planning for that. So with that, well, we're definitely going to try to keep to at least some semblance of time. Otherwise, we might be an HRCC and go for the next 4 or 5 hours. So, all right. Well, with that, let's waste no further time. Let's head on over and let's get into my lovely slides here. Everything's all mixed up. So let's kind of just let you guys catch up for those that haven't been with us from 2 weeks ago, and when we had had Mike on and started talking about this discussion. We're gonna work around the question: what is SWR actually trying to tell us? And we talked a little and framed out last 2 weeks ago. Basically, what SWR is measuring mismatch. SWR again doesn't directly measure antenna performance. A lot of people kind of have that locked in their head. I've had a few conversations with hams thinking, oh, the performance of my antenna, or they'll speak that way. And we debunked that a little bit. Low SWR again always doesn't mean your antenna is efficient, doesn't mean it's resonant, doesn't mean it's radiating well, and definitely doesn't mean it has better or worse gain. So we went into also talking about forward power, lot of reflective power, all this stuff you guys can go back in. It's 2 episodes ago in the back catalog there. And we used Shannon's shopping cart analogy. If you guys remember that, AI decided to insert Shannon into the shopping cart analogy, talking about reflected power and forward power, and how that all kind of works in. And then we, got into a little details about the classic myths, like antenna tuners will fix a bad antenna, and talking about matching, as well as how it doesn't make magically an antenna efficient or inefficient. And then lastly, if you remember, the big thing is that a dummy load can nearly have a perfect SWR, but it's not the greatest antenna. That everybody kind of knows that that analogy and knows where it's kind of go. And that a fantastic antenna that we know is getting out and hearing people can have a less than perfect SWR, and that we don't always have to look at that number and think it's the de facto standard that we have to base everything off of. And so with that, we obviously wanted to kind of leave folks with, and if you remember a while back, we left this as an antenna analyzer reading, where R and X values were 25 and 0, and the SWR was 2.1. And I left that a question with most people, would you operate with this, analyze with this SWR reading? And basically, is it a bad SWR? Is it something wrong with the antenna? Is it not tuned? All great questions, and we all kind of dove into that in depth there. And so, yeah, which brings us kind of up to today. And so we're continuing on with getting more nerdy. And with that, we're going to talk where SWR is the symptom and how it's only telling one small part of the story. And there are a couple other values that we want to look at more detailed today because they offer more insight both on your antenna and what to do. Is there? I hear a lot of noise in the background. It sounds like you have a big child party.
Oh no,
It's
it's
pretty cool.
Miles is
Yeah.
doing voice chat with his cousin, so I
Oh, very cool.
apologize
No,
for
no,
the
you're fine.
cute
I didn't know if it was me again. That's all I'm asking. Because
the
like it's just me home.
we
I don't
call
think the
that QRM for QR Miles.
oh, Miles, that's not QRN as in like natural. All right. So we are going to talk about the why today and talk about the why in terms of reactance. And so a lot of us hams in general, have kind of developed, we'll say, this kind of generic attitude of how we tune our antennas, what the SWR reading is, and how it's good enough. But there's a lot more to the story and a bigger picture that I kind of want to set for all you guys so you understand more that those extra screens you might have on your, or those little extra variables you might have on your VNA actually mean something and can tell you which way to go in terms of improving efficiencies for your antenna and maybe identify bigger issues with cable and velocity factors and line loss and power loss and RF loss. All of those things factor into this. And so we're going to start with this. And then, just to kind of give you the 50,000 foot level, we'll end with the one last episode, really getting into reactance and then how it turns into what can you do with your antenna? Like how can you make your antenna more efficient? What can you look at your transmission lines and then your radio as a whole, and then bring that all together with the hopes that we can make you guys a little bit more efficient operators when you're out there in the field versus doing what I used to do as a ham. Oh, I've got an SWR meter. I know 1.3 is good and 2.0 is bad, kind of thing. And I just kind of accepted it as I, started to do my POTA experiences because I was really more interested in doing the activation side of it. But at the same time, in the back of my head, I was like, well, am I really getting everything I can out of this antenna that I spent a lot of money on? Or is my transmission line coax, efficient enough in terms of getting the power from the road to the antenna? So we're going to get into all that and talk along those values with the idea that you understand them when you leave this. And so if you understand these values, I think it's going to start to open up more for you and really just make the picture that you've kind of only been seeing a little small part of, that much clearer. Anything in the chat there at all?
No, Shannon had to go, so bye, Shannon. Hopefully, we'll catch you on the air tomorrow, Saturday. And yeah, Mike said, "Wait, did N1JUR shave today?"
I did.
So he must have missed the part where
He did.
he's gonna start growing the beard after his vacation.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then yeah, I think that was pretty much it.
Okay. 7-3s, James. Good to see you. Thanks again for hanging out. All right. So let's talk about SWR and resonance and how they are not the same thing, guys. That I got to be kind of clear of this because this is kind of one of those things that I always in my mind equated that they were kind of similar in some nature because one always kind of impacted the other, but I never understood why. And so let's kind of define some of these terms because it might help to understand them. Because I don't know about you, but Shannon, raise your hand if you think this kind of falls in the same thing. You study those terms for the purposes of getting a passing grade on your test. But then when you get out to the field, you hear the terms resonance, matching, reactance, and you kind of just go, well, okay, whatever. And you're just like, I want to operate. Have you ever gotten to that place where like you looked at those values or somebody said those values to you and you kind of had like this big giant like blank look on your face?
I still do.
Okay.
I
Okay.
mean, I've been studying for this test and, I've been calculating things like return loss, SWR, reactance. And even though, like, I could look at a question and sort of know, okay, what what formula do I need to use to solve this question that they're asking and find the correct answer out of the four choices that I'm given. I still don't 100% know what it means. It's, I'm just, RF is still just magical to me.
Understood. So we'll talk around that. And Bricker, no scrum board here, but the idea is I told you we're going to get nerdy. And in order to get nerdy, I got to have some slides. I got to be able to convey the message. So, no, the beer didn't make it. It made its own webpage. So there you go. All right. So let's put some definitions around the terms that you guys can get your head around. Resonance. When we say that, people are like, oh, resonance. It can mean a lot in your head and what you think it might be. But basically, really all it is it's the physical phenomenon where some object, your radio, your antenna, vibrates to increase that amplitude, that wave. Remember all the AC wave that we see all the time, and we kind of just glaze over and go, yeah, I sort of make an understanding of it. Well, it basically can adjust and change against another external force, meaning your antenna. So your antenna's length, its height, its ground radial field, the composition of the soil, all of those factors all affect resonance. And that really all it means is just these two forces working against each other or trying to work in harmonious syncness. The next term I want to kind of bring is matching. Pretty straightforward. Matching is you want to make sure those two forces they come together. They make sense. They coincide. They're harmonious. They are in sync, and therefore they're the most efficient state they can be in. And that can be matching networks that we talk about a lot of times, 50 ohms, that type of stuff, tuners, all of those things, all play into some of that and helping fix that. But at the same time, there's some physical properties that you need to understand in terms of how that equates to the antenna, how it equates to your radio and your coax that help solve some of the matching, kind of mysteriousness. The last piece is resonant. Resonance pretty straightforward. We all know what that means. I mean, when I say resonance, Shannon, what does it mean to you?
Um, if
The
it's
obvious.
resonance,
Yeah. When I say resonant, when my antenna is resonant.
So that means that it puts out a signal at whatever frequency, right?
It's optimized for the
Yeah.
frequency that you picked in time at that moment.
Yeah.
And it's basically locked in. So when we say our antenna is resonant on 14250, that means both the reactance and the resonance of that at that moment when we measure it is at the optimum, place it can be. And how that equates into numbers, we're going to get into that. So it'll make some sense. When you look at this little rig expert analyzer reading, some people might say, well, that's not a resonant antenna. That's not, efficient. That SWR is too high. Well, there's kind of many schools of thought on that and how you can deal with it. But from a standpoint of here, we're going to look at those two values, R and X, because I think they're super important to understanding that SWR number we look at all the time. Because I rely on the SW number a lot, and I think, well, 1.3 to 1. Oh, that's good. Yeah, for where I'm at. The problem is I don't realize that when I start to operate, I change that. I change that scenario. And at that point, then you become less efficient down or up on the band, depending on where you operate. We're going to kind of touch base on that a little bit. So you can kind of make this thing. And I think once we kind of get to that point and talk about it, it's going to click and a light bulb's going to go off and you're like, oh, okay, that makes total sense now. So one of the things that a lot of people say is like, well, when you have a high SWR, your antenna is not super resonant. Yes and no. I mean, depending on whether your antenna is dummy load, whether your antenna is a wire, the composition, the ground makeup, all of that play into whether or not your antenna is going to be able to get the wigglies out in an appropriately efficient way. And really what it boils down to is that how are we taking what we have as a resource, AC power, RF, and moving it through the antenna so the antenna doesn't become the block? Because if you think of the antenna as the final exit point, if there's, the antenna is too short electrically or the antenna is too long electrically, that power has to basically work itself through in the most efficient way, or it becomes heat. And we all know that we don't want heat from our antennas. We want to be able to take what we put out there and get it out there as efficiently as we can, because it makes an important, you know, process in the communication stuff. Why otherwise? Why would we do this?
Yeah, we don't want it to turn into heat. We want it to turn into space wiggles.
Exactly. Go Space Wiggles! All right. So I'm going to say, we're going to kind of keep going through this because I obviously want to make sure that we drive some of this stuff home. But we're going to get into more detail. So if you got questions, or this is just kind of sparks more questions for you, head over to the Discord. We're going to have more conversations over in the Brew and Activate, channel over there about this, and start to just kind of help each other along the way. Because I think here's the take: is that if you know what those values mean, and you can properly understand how it equates to how you tune your antenna physically, you can then also identify gaps with your transmission line or your radio, or several other factors very quickly through what you're seeing on your analyzer, versus just looking at the SWR and going, hey, we're good, thumbs up, let's go. All right, anything in the questions while I keep going here?
James KI5OEB just said wavelength equals frequency. I think that was explaining resonance. So that definitely makes sense. It's like I know what it is, but like I don't exactly know what it is. Like, when you're making a resonant antenna for a certain band, right? You're taking, you're taking the 300 divided by whatever the frequency is in megahertz, and that's telling you what the full wavelength is. And then depending on if you want to make a half wavelength or a quarter wavelength, then you're dividing that length by either 2 or 4. And then you have to remember that the electrical length of the antenna is always going to be like 5% longer than the physical length. So you actually need to like make the antenna a little bit shorter, than, what you're actually sort of aiming for, which is where kind of like, that that fine tuning comes in when you're doing little fold backs and trimming and tuning and stuff like that. Head.
Like as hams, like I don't know about you, we come into this as into the hobby, and we think absolutes a lot of times. Like, oh, give me a measurement on what I need to cut, and then you measure it out there, and you find that you're way off, or you're too short, or whatever, and you don't know how to fix it. And that is one of those things, as you started to kind of go through that process there, Shannon. Is where that analyzer is going to give you those two R values and X values to be able to then say, I can intelligently cut or lengthen it, or I can, do whatever to be able to make it more efficient for what frequency we're in. And I want to really stress the frequency piece, because it can definitely change in terms of where you might actually physically operate versus where you kind of put the antenna. And, I say that with the idea is that nothing's really absolute in ham radio, because there's so many factors, and you just have to understand each of those components so you can make the best judgment call when you're out in the field. And that's what I'm hoping you guys take away with this, is being able to make this something that you can feel confident in, because like you said, Shannon, like you still don't know, like at the same time, how it equates to something that you can touch and feel.
Yeah, it's like, like I said, I've been doing this studying. I have been, not just memorizing the answers to the questions, but trying to actually, do some of the math, understand a little bit of the math, try to understand how some of these things all relate. And like James said, too, velocity factor. So I think velocity factor is like another even different thing, aside just from the electrical length of the antenna being 5% longer than what the physical length is. I think, the velocity factor of the wire, you have to take that into account too. Like, they were talking about using coax to make like quarter wavelength matching lengths of coax. I guess you would use that like instead of using a counterpoise, maybe. I don't know. Don't quote me on that.
You're about right. I mean, the coax can act as a part of the antenna.
Yeah,
or you can choke it off at the antenna and make it nothing of the antenna.
Yeah, so they're talking about how like the basically the velocity factor of like the polyethylene dielectric coax is like 0.67 or something like that. So it has to be, like like longer than than what you think, because the velocity factor through it is so slow. So
Yeah, and velocity factor, I definitely want to get into, and we'll talk about that in the next episode, because it definitely is one more tool you're going to need to have in your toolkit to be able to look at what you have physically and make a best judgment call. Because the funny thing about antennas and ham radio is nothing is ever absolute and consistent. Every time you go out in the field, you're going to be faced with a new challenge. Every time you make a change to your radio, you're going to be faced with a challenge, and just understanding these terms will help go a long way. And I know probably some of the new hams here in the chat there might have their head feel like it's spinning. Well, understand taking this in small chunks and just learning kind of, a little bit here, a little bit along the way, and always keep working to improve versus just studying to study, will go a longer way, because then it'll start to eventually, your brain will start to put and make connections along the way to give you a bigger picture, which is awesome
yeah,
because
hey, and like look at this on this next slide that you have here. Some things that look very familiar to my I know my little paper isn't loading up here, but some formulas that look very familiar to my
yep,
reference sheet here. The 2 pi frequency inductance, and 1 over 2 pi frequency capacitance.
yep.
Um,
So
so
all of
yeah.
these formulas are here just for the visual element. I am not recommending anybody study them unless you're Shannon and you have to for your, upgrade for a field license. My light went off. Oh well. And so the idea is that some of these components I'm going to talk in, but I have one example that I think that can really kind of drive the point home for reactance. And so you guys might remember 2 weeks ago we talked about the swing example, where you might be as a parent pushing your kid on the swing, and the swing is a good analogy of energy transfer, and energy transfer can equate to reactance and equate to two variables in the process called inductive reactance and capacitive reactance. And I'll talk a little bit about those, what those mean, because those are key critical things to understand in the overall arcing thing about reactance and what it does, because reactance is a bigger topic over the idea of like inductance and capacitance when it comes to talking about reactance as a whole. And well, let me kind of shape that out, so because I know I'm kind of getting ahead and it's not making sense. So you have the swing analogy. In the swing analogy, if you're pushing the child consistently, the child is just getting, and you're in sync, you're gaining momentum, and moving back and forth, and the swing, the child in the swing is moving higher and faster because you're in sync. When you, let's say, as a parent, look away to go do something else and you happen to miss a beat and you stop the child in their motion, you basically cause the energy transfer to become inefficient. And then you have to restart the whole process up and get them back into full swing. Using that analogy is how reactance works. And so if you're looking at those two values when you come to your antenna and you're looking at your feed line and looking at your radio, one of the things I think people miss, and I do this because I think in my, in reality, kind of in the space that I'm in, I've got a DC battery, and that DC battery is hooked to my radio. So in my brain, well, DC power is going through. Well, by the time your signal goes out the radio port, it's not DC, it's AC. That's where that whole wave pattern that we see in all of our study materials that we're told to memorize, and we kind of sort of half understand it in some cases if you're not an EE major or aren't in electronics in general. That it's kind of confusing, and you sort of just memorize to memorize. The idea is that those two values, reactance and resistance, play into all of that AC power, the wigglies, as Shannon says, goes down the coax wire and out the antenna. And you can imagine that those two pieces, from the radio, the coax, and the coax to the antenna, all of those can invite basically reactance or capacitance in a way that either impede a good match or enhance that match. And that match is really kind of what we're looking for. We're looking for our radio and our antenna to talk nicely to each other, because if they are, everything's efficient. And we know that in the real world that you're not always going to get a pure one-to-one. You can struggle as long as you want, but there's really just no effort in trying to squeeze out every little ounce to get to the one-to-one. when you're out in the field trying to just operate. Now, there are commercial scenarios and other settings that, that's important because of the nature of, what it's doing and the power that's putting out. But you're trying to shoot for a decent enough goal. And when you're in that process of looking at those values, so let's kind of think here. And so looking at the garden hose analogy here and how all of these components fit into it, you got a straight garden hose and you're plugged into the house, which is the source, the DC source that we're putting into the radio. The spigot itself is the output of the house to the radio and is providing you AC current down the wire in the form of RF. And that is then traveling down the wire to the antenna, and then the antenna is set up in a way physically. You got to, we'll say we're using an end fed. Well, you took the end fed straight out of the box, just put it up in the tree and said, hey, I'm going to go with it. Well, that end fed could be cut for a frequency lower in the band. So say you're in the 20-meter band, and out of the box, the antenna's cut for the CW portion. What would you think you need to do in order to be able to get it to where you want to be in the voice portion? You would have to slide it up. You'd have to shorten it or lengthen it to be able to efficiently lock in a frequency that you're on or looking to get to, and be able to then match those two together to be able to allow the power that you're putting out, if it's 100 watts or 50 watts or whatever, to efficiently go through the antenna and then be sent out into the atmosphere and hopefully making contacts. The one thing that we forget is that if, for whatever in that AC current, it's transmitting 1 million times a second. So everything that's going back and forth is just happening all under the covers. We never see it, never think about it. It's sort of like, when our data bits fly over the internet and my little picture goes to your, other side of the world kind of thing. We just don't think about it. But there's a lot that goes involved in keeping all that together. Same thing kind of goes with antennas. We need to understand that the two components that I mentioned earlier, inductive and capacitive reactance, tell your antenna or tell you your antenna is behaving a certain way. And so here's two things that will, I think, open your eyes a little bit. Inductive reactance, and this is one of the things that you're going to see on your meter and we'll go into. All inductive reactance is your antenna's way of saying, hey, I'm too long physically. Well, you know how to handle that. You shorten it up, right? You figure out, you're going to take a little bit off, and we'll talk a little bit about how you can be more smart about what you take off. Or if your antenna comes back and says, hey, I'm capacitive. Well, at that point, it's telling you, hey, it's too short and you need to adjust. And when I was out in the field and I first started using my SWR analyzer, because before that, I was always tuning to my ear. Those that have been taught by radio know that if you turn your radio up on static on the bench and you're off on the woods and you're trying to move your vertical up and down, as it gets louder or softer, you can kind of find your resonance there and get close enough by ear, which in my experience has never been great. I've never been able to get that nailed down, always a little bit off. So I said, screw it. I'm going to spend some money. I'm going to go buy myself a rig expert. And you're like, oh, cool. Now all I have to do is have this little device tell me by number what I'm doing. And I would always do this, and Shannon, maybe you do this when you're out in the field. You put your analyzer on it, and you're like, oh, it tells me it's 1 point or 2.0. Well, how do you know which way to go?
That's the thing, is that I don't usually.
Okay.
Well, so I don't do it with the Nano VNA because, I'm not gonna lie, I hardly ever bring the Nano VNA out. But what I usually do to, when I'm doing my antenna thing, I'm usually using the whip, right? So I either need to make it longer or shorter depending on what band I'm trying to get on, and I can never figure out do I need to make it longer or shorter? But visually, I have a pretty good idea of how long the antenna needs to be in order for it to, be resonant on, 15 meters or, 12 meters or whatever it is that we're trying to do. Because I know that if it's fully extended, it's resonant on 20 meters. So I know, if I'm trying to get it on 10 meters, it needs to be about half that.
Okay.
But so the way I usually tune it is I just go on AM on a clear frequency, and I just put up an AM carrier, and I just see where the SWR is. And then, I know that I either, if it's not good, right? If it's, way high, then I know I either need to go longer or shorter. So I just sort of guess and then
But
see
you don't
if I
know if you
went.
need to go longer or shorter based off of, so you have a ballpark number you get. So if the antenna needs to be cut at 66 feet for 40 meters, kind of as an example, or probably more than that, I think, now that I'm thinking about it. And so when you could pop the carrier on AM and you see the SWR is 3-1, which way do you go?
I don't know. That's why I got to go one way and make a guess. And if it's the wrong guess, then,
Wouldn't you like to know that there are things that can tell you, with the meters very clearly which direction you need to go and roughly how much you need to go? But this is
yes.
the nice part. So this is kind of where the light bulb went off in my brain, because I never paid attention to my SWR analyzer to any of the other pages in the Rig Expert. I'll raise my hand and say, hey, this is the circle of trust here, so I'm not going to bash you. I'm curious to see how many else in the other chats you take it out your Rig Experts and you ever spend more than 2 seconds outside of leaving the SWR screen that tells you the SWR, and look at the other values, or your VNA where it tells you your reactance and your RNX values. So we're going to show and reveal some of this to you a little bit so you have an idea of what those mean. So when you're looking at a meter, and let's keep going here. If you're looking, and let me do this here. So how do I want to go this? Because I don't want to kill the time here too much, but yeah, we'll skip over the antenna part here because there's some value there, but I don't think it's needed for this point. So if you're looking at these two when it comes to SWR, Shannon, you have one example, you have 25 ohm resistance and you have 0 ohm resistance on the R and X values of your meter. And you're getting an SWR of 2-1. Do you think that antenna is efficient enough?
I have no idea.
Okay, good. That's okay. That's totally easy to do. There are ways to figure this out without having to crack out the abacus and all the formulas, and being able to put your head around it. However, the tools that we have will help you solve some of that much easier. There are two values that you want to pay attention to when you're looking at your, say, Rig Expert or your SWR analyzer. Obviously, SWR here again, guys, is just a moment in time telling us what's going on as a quick summary. And like we all do this. So how many of us on our microwaves have a popcorn setting?
Yeah, of course.
Everybody's does.
I just
Right.
used the popcorn setting.
When I grow up, or when I grew up, I haven't grown up yet. Sorry, guys. When I was growing up, the original microwaves never had it. Just had a dial, or it had just like you punch in the digital thing. You had to kind of rely on guessing what, whether or not whether you're going to overbake your popcorn and burn it, or you were going to underbake it and have to restart it again, because we have just been so ingrained to just pressing one button and getting a result. SWR is sort of like that for all of us. So we don't have enough time to always understand what that number is. But then we just like, well, I'm going to take a knee-jerk reaction guess and say, I'm going to go shorten it. Oh, no, that didn't do it. I'm going to go back and how much do I lengthen it? And now you're back up to 3.0 when when you thought you were going to go lower. What you can do is that on your analyzer, and I'm going to kind of cut to the chase here a little bit because I think this is important. On your analyzer, in this example that I have here, when you're looking at your analyzer, you've got three things. You've got your SWR, which is the moment in time summary, and then you have the R and the X values. Both of those can serve a clear indication as to which direction you go. And so in example one, if your R value is 50, which is 50 ohms, so that means the coax is happy and the radio is happy and everything's good there. The X value, in this case, using example one, is -80. Well, in your mind, is that good? Is that good, bad? Well, it's an indicator. It tells you which direction you need to go automatically. And so if that X value shows that it's -80, in this case, is example one, in your mind, now you can say, oh, my antenna is too electrically short. And so if you're on a vertical, that means you increase the length of your whip, or you add a ground radial, or you do a couple of different things. But ultimately, let's keep it simple for this process. You're just going to lengthen your whip until you get to lowering that value. Now, again, you're not targeting that value, that R value, to 0, because it's again almost like trying to hit a 1-to-1. It's not really worth the effort to squeeze out inches in this case. It's good enough to get your in close to the ballpark, and the idea is to work that number down to close enough to zero, but not zero, because it's almost it's a dummy load at that point in some cases, but your antenna will never ever reach that. Let's look at example number 2. Here's another indicator. Your R value is 50. That means you got 50 ohms across the wire. You're good there. The X value's plus 80. Holy crap. Well, what do I do with that? That must be good, because we all think plus. Plus is awesome. Yeah, no problem. I'm good. No, really, at this point, you might find your antenna is too long. And your SWR is just going to say, hey, you're at 3.0. Now, this is that indicator for me, like the light bulb that went off. It's like, oh, wow, my SWR is 3.0, so I can play the game. I go longer or shorter. Well, now I have another value that says it's plus 80. Well, now I know I need to shorten it, because it's already too long, and too long from an electrical standpoint. Not when we're not talking about physicalness. I mean, well, obviously physicalness, it is too long, but ultimately from electrically, this is what it's getting back for a value. Now, what does that look like for an antenna that is basically dead on or close enough? Your R value might be 60, which is not super efficient, but in essence, you're putting about 60%, out, or 60 ohms out, which is, and we'll dive into that number in a second, what that really kind of means. But the X value is 11. Well, you're way closer now. You're not zero, and you're definitely not, negative. So you're not electrically short, and you're not like super long. You're right in that ballpark. And so now you have a number, and this is what kind of made it for me. Because when I'm looking at my analyzer, I'm looking at that number, and I'm like, now I can just easily go, oh, I have to shorten that. Oh, I have to lengthen that. And I'm now that much, we'll say, smarter in the process. So now I can look like I know what the hell I'm talking about when I say, oh, your antenna is too long or your antenna is short, because I know I've been with a bunch of guys, Grouch and Todd and everything, and Todd's setting up his, his, well, my gosh, a Buddy Pole Pro. And he's like with the elevated radial trying to move it back and forth. And he's like, is it too short? Is it too long? Is it too short? Well, do I adjust the antenna? And you play this game, and you're like, well, it looks too long. But then, I've said it all the time. I'm lying. I don't really know if it's physically too short or too long. Now I have an actual indicator that can tell me exactly what's going on. So this is the kind of the mind explosion for me, light bulb moment that helps me understand those values a little bit better. Kind of makes sense? I mean, obviously you don't have an analyzer, which we got to get you on. But
No, I do have one. It's just I don't really ever use it that much, for I guess because I just have never really felt the need to use it that much. I mean, I'm not really going out there building antennas on,
no,
ever. The only antenna that I've ever really like built, right, was I, bought a 9-to-1, and I cut wire for a random wire, which needs to be resonant on no frequencies. And I used, a website that has, good random wire lengths listed on there or whatever. So, I've never really, I have used the analyzer a couple times, but,
well,
I haven't used.
The analyzer tool is not like a one-time thing. It's used in helping to build an antenna. If you're building an antenna from scratch, yes, you definitely need something to be able to give you a place to work from. But the same kind of goes with your regular antenna, because we know that in the space that we're in at that moment, a lot of factors can play into that. Ground, clearance from the ground, the ground conditions, so forth and so on. And so all of those are going to impact how your antenna is going to perform and how efficient it's going to be. And so understanding what that looks like means that when you press the PTT, that the power transfer from 50, over the coax to the antenna is going out efficiently, and you're getting as much as you possibly can out the antenna, versus just kind of letting it fly and, doing a rough test. I mean, nothing wrong with the rough test, like just by ear kind of thing. But in essence, you're kind of shortchanging yourself to be able to optimize your antenna to the best it possibly can be for the frequency you're working in. Now, here's the other king is like if you pick say the middle of the band for 20 meters, which I know you don't hang out on a lot, whatever the middle of the band of 17 meters is for you, that's the operating frequency you should be considering to operate on. And that's kind of one of those things that for me that didn't really click because I would say I'm going to pick the 20-meter band. I'm going to check the SWR at 14,250. But I'm operating, my activation because I found a clear spot up at 14,347, just up at the edge of the band. My SWR has changed. My efficiency has changed because I've slid up the band. And so, because I know Bricker had said that, the analyzer looks a little confusing. And it's again to be simplified, my friend. It's not like a true analyzer. That little wave pattern down at the bottom is a good representation of at that moment, your SWR is there. If you slide up the band or slide down the band, you are definitely changing those characteristics and therefore changing the efficiency of your antenna. And so the tool is telling you everything you need to know. It's just that you have to have the tool to be able to have there to tell you what's going on. Let's see. Oh, thank you, James. Appreciate it. I'm not. I am learning this stuff as I kind of go. So I'm just kind of engaging you guys with the hope that if I'm wrong or I'm a little off, please come over to the Discord, help you know educate an old dog here a little bit and share with others because those that are way smarter have all the understanding, but it's just trying to take it from that lofty goal kind of pie in the sky approach and bring it down to something more that we can get our head around. And like Shannon, she can feel confident, she can set up an antenna and get out there and be efficient because guys, we're getting into the dark ages. The solar cycle is dropping. You got to use the power. The only other option is to go get a 600-watt amplifier and then just put more power out there. But then you've got a whole bag of other issues that you have to deal with. So understanding this stuff, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I mean, like there is, some truth to that where we've been at the peak of the solar cycle and you can take your G90 and hook it up with some alligator clips to, a guardrail and make contacts. But, those days are going to be coming to an end if they haven't already. So it's like some people, maybe this is the part of ham radio that they like is like the super nerdy, technical perfectionist making the most efficient antenna that they can and completely understanding every tiny little nuance about reactance and capacitance and SWR and AC circuit theory and all that.
Yep.
So maybe that is the part of ham radio that some people enjoy, but then, in some ways it's like, yeah, you can take your G90 and hook it up to a guardrail and make a contact. So does it really matter?
The tuner does all the work for you. So,
yeah, but yeah, like when the solar cycle goes down, yeah, having a more efficient antenna is going to matter a lot more for sure.
Well, and not to dismiss tuners because I growing up early ham, everybody was all concerned with you got to have a tuner, you got to have a tuner because they didn't really understand efficiencies and how to tune antennas well. Most hams didn't that I was surrounded with, and I was never really fully taught how to do efficiency when it came to antenna tuning. I was just told that you got to have a low SWR, and if you don't, then throw a tuner in between, and you're good to go. And we all know all tuners do is just help the radio and the antenna talk to each other. It's kind of an intermediary. It doesn't really boost your performance. It doesn't improve, enhance anything. It just makes everybody happy because really all its job. And that's totally fine because in some cases, if you just want to get on the air, then tuners will do that exactly for you and do it well. And that's kind of why the G90 is popular because you're not going to be able to adjust the guardrail. I mean, I'm not going to take out a saw and cut it in half because it's not electrically 66 feet, but the tuner is going to be like, oh, I'll fix that for you. Are you putting a lot of power out? No, probably not, but that's okay. You're just experimenting. You're having fun with it. But when you have a set of antennas like Shannon has in her arsenal and stable, you want them efficient. You want them working well, and you want to trust that what you have set up, you can use and get out in the field and, feel like you aren't like always second guessing yourself. Is really kind of why I'm going through this stuff. I want you guys to feel confident in being good operators. And we can learn from this stuff. And so this is why I get nerdy and we break down some of this stuff because I love doing the POTA stuff. I love making contacts. I love doing all that. But I also want to know how to be able to be a little bit more smarter with my gear. So
Yeah, and the tuner, like you said, it's only helping the radio see a better match between the antenna. It's not actually changing the antenna
characteristics,
in
anything.
any way.
Yep.
So it's just tricking the radio to be
Yeah,
happy.
exactly. It's like, it's like when you try to, bait and switch a kid from the lollipop to, piece of fruit, kind of thing. That's all the antenna is doing. The tuner's basically saying, hey, I know you need this, but here, use this. So yeah,
And yeah, Dan asked a good question. He said, so if I make slash tune an antenna today at one park and then next week bring it to the beach,
yep,
it may need adjusting again due to the environment. So
100%.
exactly that. We talked about that a little bit on Ham Radio Clubhouse, I think, where, it all depends on the soil and the ground conditions. And especially being at a beach, you have a lot of salt water that's going to be more electrically conductive. So it's going to change the characteristics of your antenna.
Yep.
So definitely,
And
that's one of the reasons why, like you said, when you're building an antenna at home and you're in this one environment that, whether or not it's a perfect environment, it's a not perfect environment, when you deploy your antenna, how high off the ground it is, or how low it is, or what the ground conditions are, how big of the slope it is. Do you do it in an inverted V, inverted L, a sloper? All that is going to affect, how your antenna works and what numbers are going to come up on the analyzer here. So even though you just make your antenna one way once doesn't mean that
it's going to
it's
be the way
gonna,
forever.
be the same every time. And that's why, like, there comes a point right on the SWR where it's actually not making that big of a difference because when you actually look at how, the forward power, the reflected power, how that all plays into the SWR, like you're actually not, losing or gaining that much forward or
Right.
reflected power. And the amount of power that you put out, right? Like I know we've said this before when we've talked about QRP operations. You have to quadruple your power in order to gain one S unit of
Yeah.
signal strength. So that's the difference between, 25 watts and 100 watts. That's a big difference. If you're already S9 at 100 watts, you're going to be S8 at 25 watts.
Now, James actually had a point there to Dan's comment about the reason for a tuner. Yes, but you're not required to kind of have a tuner because you ultimately can set yourself up that if you understand your antenna systems, whether it's a wire or vertical, you'll start to develop an acumen of what adjustment. And then with that also it comes with experimentation, meaning do you include your coax feed line as part of the antenna? Do you choke it off? Do you add more ground radials? What are those ground radial lengths? If it's a vertical, how do you deal with when it comes to coils and that type of stuff? All those things we're going to get into in the third session, which giving you some tips and tricks for antennas and verticals and wires, and a lot like what Shannon said. But ultimately, all of those do play into it, and the tuner does solve a lot of like again, the tuner's like the microwave for us and the preset button. A tuner just says, I'm going to take care of this for you, clean up that small little mess, that small little mismatch or whatever it is, and get you on the air and gets going versus you spending more time trying to optimize. And that's fine because, in essence, I want to play more radio than I do want to tune. I mean, I'll definitely set aside a time to do that. But when I'm at the beach or whatever, I want to be on the air, so that tuner will definitely help you in that, but it's not required. Okay. So this is just kind of a real quick kind of key point I wanted to bring home. Close to resonance and if SWR is low, then you're good enough to get on the air. Don't fuss with it. Don't like try to optimize and keep pushing because you're just gonna get more frustrated and you're gonna have less fun. And so ham radio is more about fun. And then take the stuff home and try it at home and then use that opportunity to be able to learn more about the capacitance and reactance values and how to appropriately and intelligently walk through tuning your antenna for different scenarios. Because I know if I'm in my backyard, which is more rocky or I'm basically off a back of a swamp kind of thing. I know my permanent antenna I have outside. It behaves differently based off of the soil conditions, and it's up 40 feet, in an inverted L versus my Wolfer recoil that I put out in the backyard and have to fight to get it in close enough because of just the conditions. So yeah, you'll start to learn some of that stuff, and again through hopefully this, I'm just kind of hopefully opening your eyes a little bit to see that this stuff isn't that scary, and it's there for a purpose, and it's helpful because it gets you to where you want to be. All right, so let's keep going here because I know we're getting a little long in time.
Yeah, I do need to put a bow on this somewhat soon-ish.
I know you. Okay,
only because I need to, I need to get ready to do this test.
I'm with you too. I've got a lot of planning for W1BB. So the big SWR debate, I'm just going to kind of put this out there because I know it's important, and it kind of gets overrated. But I'm really trying to state it in a way that's more helpful for all of us because we all can be in either camp, and either camp has definitely got their good points and bad points. But I would say if we're going to rewrite the statement above that says SWR is one of the most overrated measurements in amateur radar, I hear that often all the time. I would rephrase that statement as more of the idea. Let me find it. I just lost my page here. SWR isn't overrated. It's just misunderstood. If you understand that and not treat it as, this value that's a pie in the sky or an absolute, and you take into all of the other considerations that those other values that your analyzer is telling you, you'll be that much more equipped to be able to make a better decision for the moment you're in at the time to get the best you can out of what you have in front of you. Because a lot of this stuff also factors into your coax, and we haven't even touched that yet. And I know a few folks mentioned velocity factor, coax quality, interconductor stuff. And I think we want to do something like that around there because I think that's kind of cool geekiness stuff to talk about. So we'll talk about that in the future. But yeah, that does play into all of this as a long haul. All right. And so my last kind of slide here, and the only takeaway. Again, following the three measurement pieces. And again, these are the three things that I think if you take anything away from tonight or today, because where I feel like I'm in tonight, are your resonance or your X value, which is resonance, your R value, which is the match between your radio and your antenna. Trying to shoot for 50 ohms is close. Higher numbers will give you different, scenarios to think about. And we didn't really cover that today because I think that, there's something there because that gets more into the coax side. SWR, how happy the radio. That's really all it's telling you. It's just saying, hey, radio, antenna, coax, everything's good. Let's go for it. Or, oh my gosh, we're 3-0. Let's figure out how we can change it. Your performance is only determined when you get on the air. And that, like, for me, that was a light bulb moment because it's like, I set my SWR to 14,250, but I'm playing up in 14,347. I should take 2 seconds and readjust my SWR, readjust my antenna so I can optimize myself for that moment. And I probably might, not probably, I will see an improvement both in my transmission possibly, as well as in receive. And some of those other factors play into it, but you will see something come back from it. So take the little extra time, make a mental note to say, hey, I'm going to adjust based off of where I am. And I guarantee you'll see some improvement. And then so the bottom line is, next time you're connecting to an analyzer, don't ask what's my SWR. Ask what is that antenna trying to tell me, and that'll help change your mindset. That'll help change your thought process, and how to make that adjustment, and be able to feel more confident, like Shannon said, in being able to make those calls in one way or the other versus just kind of knee jerk and guessing. So, all right. Hopefully that was helpful. I know it was kind of a speed round, and we definitely went a little long, but I was glad to have Shannon back and catch up on all the great stuff because we have a lot of stuff going on. So I'm hoping to see all you guys tomorrow on the live stream if you can make it. If you can physically come down to hang out with us here in the New England area, please come by the museum. It's free admission, 10 to 2. We'd love to see you. Come by, stop by, say hello. I've had a lot of awesome feedback from both people posting on the Charles River Museum, Facebook page, as well as sending me emails and stuff like that. So, guys, thank you again. Keep questions coming, and all of our frequency, spotting and all that stuff will be up on the stream, as well as with any other spotting pages that we might get on for whatever reason. So. Anything you want to add before we kind of put a bow on the Shannon?
Nope. James just said, think of this as alternating current, and the push and pull helps visualize the system.
Yep.
Yeah. So I said like a push me, pull you, and if you get that reference, then we
I
can
did
be
forget.
friends.
We forgot to mention that if you work us, there the trustee has asked that we create a special QSL card. So these are one-time shot. The museum's creating one. They'll get it to us, and we may contact you, get you in the log. You'll get a unique commemorative Christmas card, a QSL card, not a Christmas card. It may come out before that, way before that. That will be part of some great history, and so yeah, looking forward to it. And so with that, guys, thank you again for hanging out with us. If you're not a member of the N1JR Brew Crew, please head on over to my YouTube channel. Come be part of all the fun and action. We're always doing some great stuff over there. And we're going to continue this beard and bust thing because I've got some interesting videos coming out soon with that, as well as a whole boatload of other stuff because I've been just crazy trying to get the community foundation laid here. So with that, Shannon, whether you're activating or hunting, and the goal is simple: have fun, stay safe, keep exploring. Until next time, keep your radios
It's
on,
on your PTT down,
Thank you,
and
POTA
POTA
on.
on.